But Emma's life was not just about love affairs. She believed in and acted upon political principles. In a retrospective document she wrote, published in The Hague in 1932, she mused about her 3 medals, each represented by a prison conviction.
Convictions, my convictions, simply the right to be. Anarchism, birth control, conscription resistance,
ABC.
My first court conviction, which sent me to Blackwell's Island for a year, came in 1893. At a meeting in Union Square, I had advised thousands of unemployed not to trust politicians, but stand up and demand bread from the rich. For proposing the first of America's poor people's marches, I was hauled into court and questioned about my views on God and government and morality, all of which I happen to oppose.
Why don't you leave this country if you don't like it here?
And where shall I go? Everywhere on earth the laws are against the poor. And they tell me I'll never get to heaven, nor would I want to anyway, frankly.
Gentlemen of the jury, were this dangerous woman to be acquitted, it would be to lift aloft the black flag of anarchy and let it wave over the ruins of law and order. Aliens like her would just as soon as not run a knife into anyone or blow up half the town with dynamite bombs.
Yes, the children of the rich will be exterminated, and worst of all, property is likely to be destroyed. I was convicted of inciting to riot, even though there hadn't even been a riot. The fact is, all I was exhorting the masses to do was to recall Cardinal Manning's dictum of long ago that
necessity knows no law. The starving man has a right to a share of his neighbor's bread.
For this, the authorities demanded my head. The San Francisco court rules that I be hanged
by the neck and still dead, and considerably longer.
Why? Because I dared to strip off hypocrisy's masks. I dared ask questions that nobody asks, such as,
what good is government that lets the starving die?
Why should the state matter more than you or I?
Anarchism means that no one tells you what to do.
You decide what's good for you.
Those rich houses over on Park Avenue, go demand work. If they don't give it to you, demand bread. Give us something to eat. If they don't open up our hearts, take to the street. Is there no way to avoid violence?
We shall never be able to put an end to violence, but we can refuse to condone injustice with our silence. I mean that equally concerning any tyranny, communistic, fascistic, or any other kind of high moralistic. I will never say only what powerful people would like to hear. So, in 1893, they sent me to Blackwell's Island prison for a year.
B. Birth control.
What kind of world is it where women have no voice, but in poverty bear children and society scorn? Anyone with feeling sees they ought to have a choice, so I spoke out on the right of the child not to be born. I broke the law by teaching methods of birth control, but how could I not play that healing role? The world is sick to its soul, and somehow we had to reach that goal, where every woman has the right to bear a child or to refuse, and not to be dictated to by the law or by some dominating male, for promoting every female's right to choose. In 1916, I was sentenced to 2 weeks in Queens County Jail.
Convictions.
My convictions,
Simple as ABC. Anarchism, birth control, conscription resistance, that's E.G. E.G.'s third conviction was for conspiracy with me, Alexander Berkman, and many the others in 1917 to induce persons not to register for service in a war where so many would be so senselessly killed. During the trial, there was a recruiting station outside where a band kept playing the Star-Spangled Banner. All were ordered to stand. We remained seated.
It is a strange perversion of human reason that dares question any person's right to exist. None does it so very effectively as the spirit of U.S. preparedness.
The martial maniac run amok. This is an audience participation member. You all get to do this. The martial maniac run amok. The martial maniac. Come on. The martial maniac run amok.
The deathly germ of militarism is sweeping the country like a plague. Years ago, Germany proclaimed,
Deutschland über alles, Deutschland für die Deutschen, first and always. We want peace,
and
therefore we must be prepared for war. Only a well-armed nation has integrity and can command respect internationally. The martial maniac run amok.
And Germany continued to prepare, thereby forcing other nations to do so. But you cannot build up a standing army and then throw it back into a box like tin soldiers. Armies equipped to the
War is a culminating fruition of the hydra-headed gospel of militarism. War!
Consumes the strongest and most productive elements of the nation.
War!
Swallows the largest part of the national revenue.
Almost nothing is spent on literature, art, music, education, compared with the amount devoted to war!
In times of peace.
While in times of war, all else is set at naught, all life stagnates, all efforts curtailed to feed the insatiable monster of the military. It has become more arrogant, more aggressive, more bloated, with its own sense of self-importance. If for no other reason than out of surplus energy, militarism, to stay alive, will look for an enemy or even create one artificially. Emma Goldman, 1917.
I spoke to anyone who would open his ears. I spoke to anyone who would open his ears, urging all who hated war to resist. And in 1917, I was sentenced to 2